If you know both your capabilities and your enemies, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. If you know your own capabilities but are ignorant of your enemies, you will suffer a certain defeat for every victory you achieve. But if you are ignorant of both your own capabilities and your enemies, then certain defeat will be your only ally in every battle. Golden words over thousands of years old, immortalized by this military leader, the greatest military leader of all time. He was described as possessing a formidable military mind. Merely mentioning his name in front of the enemy guaranteed their loss without a doubt. The Chinese general who succeeded in authoring one of the most important books in military science, a book based on which many army leaders throughout history ensured victory by implementing its contents to the letter. A wealth of sciences, knowledge, expertise, and experiences are contained in his book, which he compiled after studying the military history of the three strongest kingdoms that existed at the time, just to understand the reasons for the victor's triumph and the vanquished loss in every battle. He rightfully earned the title professor before being a military general, the owner of the strangest training experiment in all of military history, in which he insisted on training the most beautiful 180 concubines to prove that wise leadership is sufficient to transform them into the best fighters. But when he assembled them before the king for a demonstration, the surprise was shocking, and it became the most important incident announcing the birth of a new era in military science. If you want to know who the hero of our episode is, discover for yourself why there is a consensus that he is the best military leader throughout the ages, and what the secret of his book, The Art of War, is, then you must watch today's video until the end. But before we begin our episode, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get all the new content. Citizens, this is the teacher and expert, Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu was born in 551 BC in the state of Wu, which was then part of the Qi kingdom in China. At that time, he was just an ordinary Chinese officer rising through the ranks. But after he managed to write 13 articles on the arts of war and combat, how to achieve victory in battles, and enhancing army capabilities to force the enemy into defeat, he began to attract the attention of King Helu. The king read the articles, composed of 6,000 highly important sentences, and they truly impressed him. So, he sent for Sun Tzu to discuss them. Let me tell you, China at that time was going through an era called the Spring and Autumn period because it was still transitioning from a slave system to a feudal system. More precisely, during this time, China, for 1,000 years BC, was like scattered tribes, with each tribal leader responsible for protecting his people from attacks. This primitive society was, by its very nature, extremely violent, and wars and battles spread among the tribes until the Qi kingdom was formed. Then, China was divided into only 3 kingdoms, each responsible for dozens of tribes. According to historians' accounts, the Chinese general Sun Tzu had studied most of these wars and battles. He saw them as a series of civil wars from which he must learn in order to know how to achieve victory in future wars. After writing his book, the king summoned him to discuss the most important military book in history, titled The Art of War. The king then said to him, "I have read your book named The Art of War. Can I put your theories on soldier management to a simple test?" He agreed, of course. The king asked another question, and can we conduct the same test with women? He emphatically confirmed his agreement. Not only that, but he also assured the king that the military information in the book would be valid for every time and place, and with any people, as long as the leader adhered to it. Consequently, 180 women from the king's palace concubines were prepared and divided into 2 groups. He appointed 1 concubine at the head of each group, who would be very fortunate. After that, he ordered them to arm themselves with spears and hold them in a specific position in their hands. He then addressed them loudly, saying, "I assume you now know the difference between front and back, the right hand and the left hand. Is that not so?" The concubines replied, "Yes." He continued his speech, saying to them, "When I say look forward, you must look forward. When I say turn left, you must turn toward your left hand. When I say turn right, you must turn toward your right hand. When I say turn back, you must turn toward your right hand behind you." The concubines replied that they understood his words and had memorized the commands he explained well. The result was moving them to the next step, and Sun Tzu began training them militarily for 3 months. After that, he gathered them all before the king, to the beat of drums and in front of a crowd of army leaders. He ordered the concubines to turn right. But the surprise was unexpected. The concubines burst into laughter, and none of them carried out the order. Sun Tzu responded to them, saying, "If the words used in issuing orders are not clear and distinct, and if those orders are not comprehensively understood, then the blame falls on the commander." Then he paused the experiment temporarily and decided to continue training the concubines again. He became convinced of your ability to deal with soldiers, and I will not enjoy food or drink without these 2 concubines, for I wish to spare their lives. Here, Sun Tzu refused to forgive the concubines and sent a shocking message to his king, who was sitting on the platform above, writing, "Since you have charged me with leading your military forces, there are some of your commands that I cannot accept while under this commission. My apologies to your majesty." Sun Tzu issued his orders to behead the 2 leaders. After that, he appointed the next 2 concubines as leaders of the groups. At that moment, he warned them all that he would resume the drills in front of the king without mercy, even if he had to sacrifice all of them. Strangely, none of them laughed, and all the concubines then began to carry out his orders with great strictness. If he asked them to turn left, they would move in an orderly and powerful manner, as if they were highly trained, elite soldiers. So, Sun Tzu sent his message to the king, who was watching them from afar, writing to him, "Your soldiers have been trained and organized to the highest level, better than you requested. They are now perfectly ready for you to review them at any time. You can now use them for any desire your majesty wishes, as if they were swords of iron. Issue the command whenever you wish, and they will go through fire and water without mercy." The king ordered Sun Tzu to dismiss and end the training after confirming the experiment's success, and that no one was better than him to lead the army with the highest degree of competence. Although the king at that time was very saddened by the death of his 2 favorite concubines and was filled with anger towards Sun Tzu, he ordered his immediate appointment as general of the army. After that, he was sent to fight the largest kingdom opposing his own, the neighboring kingdom of Chu. Sun Tzu moved at the head of a small number of soldiers, whom he insisted on training himself, and indeed managed to defeat the kingdom's army despite its strength. Then his army, under Sun Tzu's leadership, took the path to its capital, Ying, and continued northwards on the orders of King Helu, whose name alone was enough to instill fear in the kingdoms of Qi and Shan. As usual, he managed to defeat them. From one victory to another, the reputation of Commander Sun Tzu spread further and further. In the blink of an eye, thanks to his military genius in training soldiers, the kingdom of Helu expanded tremendously. According to the Chinese manuscripts found in the largest museums there, you will find a sufficient explanation clarifying how he managed, with an army of 30,000 soldiers, to defeat an enemy army whose numbers exceeded 200,000 soldiers. This is because the manuscripts compare the training methods of the 2 armies, and one of the most important shortcomings in the enemy army was its lack of 2 important elements: organization and management. This confirms the theory of Commander Sun Tzu, explained in his book, which says that if you know your capabilities and your enemies well, you need not fear the outcome of 100 battles. If you know your capabilities, but do not know your enemy's potential, defeat will follow you after every victory. But if you are ignorant of both, then be well aware that defeat will accompany you for life. This is why many researchers agree that The Art of War is one of the best books discussing the organization of strong armies in history, if not the best of all. This is because it is not just a superficial book relying on how a commander turns soldiers from humans into killing machines, nor on how to kill the humanity within them. Nor does it even explain tactics for attack and technical methods for waging battles in general, since essentially every battle has its own laws. Additionally, every people have elements of strength and weakness that distinguish them from others. The Art of War teaches the leader how to have leadership skills and how to exploit his enemy's flaws and weaknesses. It explains to him how to make the soldiers obey him and how to deal with them if they fail to achieve what is required, but without wronging them. No matter how long the peace lasts, they must always be ready and prepared without surrendering to life, the side that can increase in times of peace. Most importantly, the leader should not deal with them as chess pawns. If they die, he just gets others. This is because then they will not love or respect him. They will only fear him and fight merely to save themselves, not out of a desire to achieve victory by implementing what they learn from their leader. That is why, despite his successive victories in dozens of major battles, when he noticed that the king was treating him as a magic lamp or Moses' staff, and that his sole concern was victory, even if it meant attacking innocent kingdoms, and moreover, he was being sent without respite, opportunity after every battle, he decided to resign from the army. He chose to live in a remote forest, far from city life. During his seclusion, he was able to review his book multiple times so that it would appear in its best form, capable of benefiting any military leader who reads it, serving as a reference or guide in military sciences. He indeed succeeded in this, and afterwards, leaders throughout history began adding their own theories and explanations of its most important passages to the book, passages that researchers to this day consider a weapon in themselves if they fall into the hands of an unjust military leader trying to implement its content for the rape of cities to which he has no right, to the extent that his name changed from Sun Tzu to Sunday. Among his sayings, appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. To know your enemy, you must become your enemy. Treat your men as you would your own beloved sons, and they will follow you into the deepest valley. These were the reasons for his naming as the teacher and expert. And with this, our episode concludes. Don't forget to tell us your opinion in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to get all the new content. Finally, we hope for your likes and shares for the episode. Goodbye.